Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So this video is not really going to be a video that I was hoping for, I guess, out of this car repainting project that I did. This is the furthest thing from a how-to. I'm just going to share my experiences and the money that I spent doing this. Hopefully I can provide somebody a little more information, because if you look on YouTube, there are plenty of videos out there of people successfully painting cars in garages. I'm going to be one of those people that shares with you kind of the negative sides of doing this and the realistic sides of things you might run into. And this was really just a great car to try this out on, and that was kind of why I decided to do it myself. I went to Maaco to see what Maaco would want for a paint job, and $1,800 for a color match from Maaco, or $2,509 for a color change. I'll get into the cost breakdown of this stuff in a moment and all the things that I bought here, but let me just run you through the subsequent 2 paint jobs that I put on this car after I decided to go the legit way and do a 2-stage myself. The first paint job, I'm going to say both attempts, basically, the both real 2-stage attempts that I did here spraying in the garage, were probably 40 hours a piece of work. So it was 80 hours of man hours, and that's probably pretty close in the ballpark of the time that I spent. For me, you know, the first go around was rough. What I did was I decided the front end was really what it needed paint from primer on up. The rest of the car only really needed to be a top coat, because it's just color matching and blending. So I figured I'll just shoot the whole car with the new color. The car's 10 years old, it's probably sun faded, so I'll do that. So I wet sanded the car at 400 grit for the top coat, and what ended up happening was it looked decent and in the garage, and then I pulled it out in the sun, and you could find all that metallic just sat in those sand scratches. It looked horrible. It basically looked like the whole car was like stainless steel. It had that kind of graining to it, and it was comically bad, to the point where I was like, I can't keep it like that. So I waited for maybe a month or two until I had another weekend where I could approach this. So for the second go around, I actually went a little bit more intense with a lot more intense with the prep work on the whole car. I actually wet sanded from, started at 4 and then got all the way up to 800 grit, and then shot over top of that just to alleviate the sand scratches, and that worked out great. So there are no sand scratches anywhere on the car. I shot that, and it turned out pretty decent. I have 43 hours of footage of me painting this car, and because I'm not in a position to share with you how to paint the car, because clearly I don't know. I learned, I would say, respectfully, I learned 15% of a skilled trade through probably 200 hours of painting. and I mean that. I mean, there's a lot to be learned. People ask me, would you do it again? And my response is, I would only do it again if the vehicle that I was painting was not a daily driver. I can ride the bike to work frequently, but I do need to have my car available for when I have to go out to job sites. I'm basically stuck to having to do this on the weekends, and that's the #1 problem, is trying to rush it. So I'm gonna tell you right now, coming home from work on a Friday, tearing down the headlights, taking off the mirrors, taping everything off, you know, all that stuff. You kind of start off on a Friday night feeling real good. Early Saturday morning, you come out to the garage and you think, I'll be shooting this thing first thing Sunday morning. I just got to sand through the day Saturday and get it ready. But I can promise you that you get into Sunday morning and there's just final details and things you got to touch up that, you know, if you're trying to do it right. And then you don't start spraying till the afternoon. And then you're kind of in a rush because, well, now I got to go to work tomorrow. And now I got to get to the point where not only do I spray this today, but I've got to kind of get the car back together. And if I had a situation where I had a project car where it was not my primary daily driver, and you could kind of chip away at it over the course of 3 or 4 weekends, I would absolutely do it again. 100% definitely do it again. So really, it's how much time do you have? Now, the money part of this. So I spent a total of $1,269 on paint. That is for all of the paint, the clear, the supplies from the paint store, the urethane primer, paint mixing cups, sandpaper, strainers, air filters, paint gun cleaner, that type of stuff. I also spent $1,495 on tools. The way my brain works is I look at these tool acquisitions and projects not like only like this, but even like the motorcycle when I went out and bought a jack and all the tools to change the tires myself, which I also won't do that again. But I actually joke, I might do that again. Getting all these tools, I got, in the course of this project, I picked up a 60-gallon compressor. I plumbed up all of the copper piping for the airlines, moisture separators, the 50-foot hose reel that, by the way, is awesome. You know, all the connectors, the 20-amp safety switch, the wire for the compressor, anti-vibration pads for the compressor, valves, and then the air filters. So, you know, running clean air while you're painting a car is totally necessary. So that $1,400, basically it was $1,269 of consumables for the car, but then $1,400, call it $1,500 for tools that then become, I have a compressor now that I can, you know, run air tools, and I've always wanted that. It's my first compressor. So all in, basically, I lost, if you want to look at this just from a dollar standpoint and say that who cares if you got tools and, you know, just basically discount all of that, which fair enough, if you want to do that, you certainly can. I could have got away $955 cheaper just to go to Maaco and let them do a color match. To a lot of people, I would recommend it because doing this myself was just a bear, and I expect about maybe 5% of the population would be willing to go through all of that effort to do this. You know, if I would have done a color change, I would have only been, you know, saved $255. So the tips that I would pass on to people is actually lighting. That was a big one. The first paint job I did, I had horrible lighting in here. Matter of fact, this was the lighting that I had the first time that I painted. So I went to Home Depot and I bought 2 strands of these LED lights, and it was a night and day difference. It was a huge difference. Lighting in the garage is enormous, enormously important when you're doing painting. My other tip, sand. When you think you're done sanding, go for another round of sanding. Here's one, the spray gun. One thing, when you don't do this for a living and you're trying to figure it out as you go, these cups, you know, for painting, you screw them in the top of the gun, they work great. This lid, on my first go around of painting, they have a little hole in the top of the lid. It's a breather hole. So as you're blowing air through the gun, it's pulling air into the cup here and you know, basically creating suction that pulls the paint through the gun. That was not punched through all the way. So I started painting, and as I was spraying out, I'd pull the trigger and I'd go across the car, and the gun would just slowly kind of peter out. And I thought the gun was jammed. I started cleaning the gun. I went through all these diagnostic steps, and turned out that just that little breather cap, well, it just wasn't punched all the way through, so it wasn't breathing. And every time I would mess with the gun, it would release enough pressure into the gun, so when I sprayed, it would spray again. So it was a nightmare, and it actually screwed up my color pretty bad. So that was something that, not being a painter, you would never even know to check that. Turning down the PSI, I sprayed at too high of PSI. I didn't learn until I got to the clear coat stage, and halfway through the clear coat stage, that actually turning down pressure, it helps really alleviate the painting in a cloud problem, which creates a lot of overspray, and it caused me a lot of finish issues. I'm going to say this carefully, be less concerned of overspray. The first go around, like I said, I spent so much time building out a legit paint booth. The second time, I kind of realized that the first time I probably went a little bit too crazy. So the second go around, I just put that same big 4-foot fan in the garage. I filtered the air going out, and I didn't care about the air coming in. So it did lead to a couple little things getting in the paint, but I learned that you can actually get quite a bit out of the paint easily, that it really wasn't that big of a concern to keep clean air filtering in as much as it was just making sure that the air that was going out wasn't just totally covering the entire neighborhood. But I even went with a looser knit filter to allow airflow to travel more, so that the garage was kind of clearing out faster, and it worked fine. So to close this out, I have 43 hours of footage of me painting this car. I peppered a bunch of it in through here. just for some B-roll. Out of that 43 hours of video content that I got, I did not perfect this enough to try to put together a video either encouraging or discouraging people to do it themselves. Basically, it was just a lot of me stumbling through things and learning as I went. And again, I learned, I'd say 10-15% of a skilled trade that requires years of perfection. And I shot a metallic for the first time painting a car ever, which probably wasn't smart either. So with that being said, I'm just gonna kind of wrap up this Crown Vic restoration project. The paint job that's on here, it is what it is. It's not gonna be painted again by me ever again. Yeah, I mean, all in, I am incredibly proud of my terrible paint job. I say that, and I truly mean it. I enjoy learning new things. I enjoy taking on new challenges for this channel. I enjoy just kind of getting dirty, and when people tell me that you can't do something, I look at that as a challenge, and maybe I'm an idiot, I don't know, but at the end of the day, if you can kind of tinker around with some things, learn a skill or two, or an eighth of a skill, it's all good. So maybe I'll paint the bike one of these days. We'll find out. But with all that being said, guys, if this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I'll see you guys next time.